The morning sun cast long shadows across the crystalline towers of New Geneva as Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the orbital station Prometheus. Below her, Earth gleamed like a blue-green jewel, but the beauty was marred by the dark scars of the Vorthak invasion. 3 months had passed since the alien fleet first appeared, and humanity was losing the war. Sarah pressed her palm against the cool transparisteel window, watching the latest batch of human refugees being evacuated from the Australian continent. The Vorthak had claimed another major city overnight, their energy weapons turning Sydney's skyline into molten slag. The alien invaders seemed unstoppable, with their massive bioships that healed themselves and warriors who could bend light itself to become invisible. "Captain Chen, you're needed in the briefing room," came the voice of Lieutenant Torres through her communicator. Sarah took one last look at her wounded planet before heading through the station's corridors. The briefing room buzzed with tension as Earth's remaining military leaders gathered around a holographic display. Admiral Jackson, his weathered face showing the strain of constant warfare, gestured to the three-dimensional map floating above the table. Red zones indicated Vorthak-controlled territory, which now covered nearly 40% of Earth's surface. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've discovered something remarkable," Admiral Jackson began, his voice carrying a mix of hope and disbelief. "Our scientists have been studying the wreckage from the Beijing battle, and they've made a breakthrough." Dr. Elena Vasquez, the station's chief researcher, stepped forward. Her usually pristine lab coat was stained with coffee and exhaustion, but her eyes burned with excitement. "The Vorthak technology isn't entirely biological as we first thought. There's a synthetic component, a kind of crystalline matrix that amplifies their natural abilities." She manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on a fragment of alien technology that sparkled with an inner light. "This crystal contains what we're calling Radiance energy, a form of power that responds to strong emotional states, particularly courage and determination." Captain Chen leaned forward, studying the alien artifact. "You're saying their own weapons can be turned against them?" "More than that," Dr. Vasquez replied, her voice rising with enthusiasm. "Preliminary tests show that humans have an unusual compatibility with Radiance energy. While the Vorthak use it primarily for stealth and healing, human test subjects have shown the ability to manipulate it in ways the aliens never intended." Admiral Jackson activated another section of the display, showing footage from a classified testing facility. A young soldier stood in the center of a chamber, holding a modified piece of Vorthak crystal. As they watched, the soldier's body began to emit a soft golden glow, and suddenly, he launched himself into the air, flying with grace and power that defied physics. "Flight, Doctor," Vasquez explained. "Enhanced strength, energy projection, and most remarkably, the ability to generate protective force fields. The crystal responds to human courage in a way that seems to amplify our natural determination and protective instincts." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. For months, humanity had been on the defensive, barely holding on to their remaining territories while the Vorthak forces grew stronger. But this discovery could change everything. "There's more, Doctor," Vasquez continued. "The energy signature becomes more powerful when humans work together. Teams of crystal-enhanced individuals show exponential increases in their abilities. It's as if the Radiance energy feeds on human bonds of trust and camaraderie." Captain Chen felt her heart racing. After months of watching her species retreat and suffer, finally, there was hope. "How many crystals do we have?" 12 functional units, Admiral Jackson replied. "Enough for a small team. The process of integration is intense. We need volunteers who possess exceptional courage and the ability to work seamlessly with others under extreme stress." Without hesitation, Sarah stepped forward. "I volunteer." Around the room, other officers began to speak up. Lieutenant Torres, who had served with Sarah for 3 years, immediately joined her. Commander Reyes from the Mars Colony Defense Force raised his hand. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a former pilot turned tactical analyst, stood as well. One by one, the bravest of humanity's defenders volunteered for an experimental procedure that might kill them or transform them into something beyond human understanding. Over the next week, the selected volunteers underwent intensive preparation. The crystal integration process required not just physical conditioning but mental and emotional readiness that pushed each candidate to their limits. Sarah found herself in meditation chambers, learning to access depths of courage she never knew existed. The crystals, it seemed, didn't just grant power. They demanded absolute honesty with oneself. The Radiance energy responds to authentic emotions, Dr. Vasquez explained during one of the preparation sessions. Any fear, doubt, or selfishness can cause the crystal to reject the host. You must be prepared to face not just external enemies but your own inner darkness. Sarah spent hours in psychological evaluation, confronting memories of every moment she had ever felt afraid or uncertain. The process was exhausting, but gradually she began to understand what the crystals required. They didn't need perfect humans. They needed humans willing to be perfectly human. With all the courage and compassion that entailed, the integration day arrived with little fanfare. Sarah lay on a surgical table as Dr. Vasquez and her team prepared the Radiance crystal for implantation. The crystal itself was beautiful, a translucent gem that seemed to contain liquid starlight, pulsing with warm golden energy. "Remember," Dr. Vasquez said softly, "the crystal will amplify whatever is truly in your heart. Focus on why you're fighting, on what you hope to protect." As the crystal made contact with Sarah's nervous system, the world exploded into sensation. She felt connected not just to the crystal but to every living thing around her. The hopes and fears of her teammates, the love of families below on Earth, the desperate courage of soldiers fighting impossible odds across the solar system. The Radiance energy flowed through her like liquid courage, transforming her understanding of what it meant to be human. When she opened her eyes, the world looked different. Colors were more vivid, and she could sense the emotional states of everyone around her. More importantly, she could feel the crystal's power humming through her body, ready to be channeled through acts of bravery and protection. The other volunteers underwent their own transformations. Lieutenant Torres emerged with the ability to generate shields of pure light. Commander Reyes discovered he could move with superhuman speed and strength. Dr. Tanaka found herself capable of projecting healing energy that could mend both wounds and damaged equipment. As the newly enhanced team gathered for their first training session, something unexpected happened. When they stood together, their individual Radiance energies began to resonate, creating a collective glow that filled the chamber with warm, golden light. They could feel each other's thoughts and emotions, forming a bond deeper than any military unit had ever experienced. "This is what the Vorthak never understood," Dr. Vasquez observed, watching the team's synchronized movements. "They use the crystals to enhance individual power. But humans make each other stronger." The team's first mission came sooner than expected. Vorthak forces had launched a surprise attack on the Europa mining stations, threatening to cut off humanity's supply of rare elements needed for their remaining defensive systems. Traditional military responses had failed. The aliens' stealth capabilities made them nearly impossible to target, and their bioships could absorb most conventional weapons. As Sarah and her team prepared for departure, Admiral Jackson pulled her aside. "Captain, I need you to understand what you're really fighting for here. This isn't just about saving a mining station. If your abilities work as we hope, you'll be proving that humanity has something the Vorthok can never take away: our capacity to become more than ourselves when we fight for each other." The transport ship Aspiration carried the team toward Jupiter's moon, where the battle raged in the ice fields around Europa's primary mining complex. Through the viewports, they could see flashes of energy weapons and the dark silhouettes of Vorthak bioships moving through space like predatory whales. As they approached the conflict zone, Sarah felt the Radiance crystal responding to her determination. Golden light began to emanate from her body, and she could sense her teammates' similar transformations. They were no longer just human soldiers. They were something new. Something that combined the best of human courage with alien power in ways the universe had never seen. 30 seconds to deployment," announced the pilot. Sarah looked at her team, seeing not just enhanced warriors but family members bound together by shared purpose and mutual trust. "Remember," she told them, We're not just fighting for territory or resources. We're fighting to show the universe what humanity really means. The cargo bay doors opened, revealing the vast emptiness of space and the distant glow of the Europa battle. Without spacesuits, protected only by the Radiance energy flowing through their bodies, the team launched themselves into the void. Sarah felt the crystal's power lift her through space, carrying her toward a confrontation that would determine not just the fate of a mining station, but the future of human resistance against an alien empire that had never encountered beings quite like Earth's children. Below them, the ice fields of Europa glittered in Jupiter's reflected light, while overhead, Vorthak bioships moved in formations designed to overwhelm human defenders through sheer alien superiority. But they had never faced humans who could fly through space on wings of pure courage, who grew stronger rather than weaker when fighting together, and who carried within themselves the kind of radiance that turned darkness itself into a source of hope. The vacuum of space felt strangely welcoming as Sarah and her team soared through the darkness toward Europa's embattled mining stations. The Radiance crystals provided more than just protection from the void. They created a sensation of flying through liquid starlight, each movement guided by pure intention rather than conventional physics. Through their shared consciousness, Sarah could feel Lieutenant Torres's amazement at their newfound abilities, Commander Reyes's tactical mind already calculating attack vectors, and Dr. Tanaka's wonder at the harmony between human will and alien technology. They moved as one unit, their golden auras creating a constellation of hope in the black emptiness. The Vorthak bioships came into view like massive sea creatures swimming through space. Each vessel was easily the size of a city block, their hulls shifting and rippling with organic patterns that suggested both advanced technology and living tissue. Smaller attack craft darted around them like schools of predatory fish, their sleek forms barely visible until they fired their energy weapons. "Status report on the mining stations," Sarah requested through her communicator. The reply came from Colonel Martinez, commanding the beleaguered defense forces on Europa's surface. "Captain Chen, thank God you're here. Station 7 is completely overrun. Station 4 is holding, but barely. The aliens have some kind of new weapon. They're draining power directly from our defensive systems." Sarah could see the battle playing out below them. The Vorthak had deployed massive crystalline structures on Europa's ice surface, each one pulsing with dark energy that seemed to suck the light from surrounding human installations. Their warriors moved with fluid grace across the frozen landscape, their advanced stealth technology making them appear as little more than heat distortions in the mining station's thermal sensors. "Torres, can you generate a scanning field?" Sarah asked. "We need to see through their stealth technology." Lieutenant Torres closed her eyes, focusing her radiance energy outward. Golden light spread from her position like ripples on a pond, and suddenly, the true scope of the Vorthak assault became visible. Hundreds of alien warriors were advancing on the remaining human positions, their forms revealed as dark silhouettes against Torres's illumination field. "My God," whispered Dr. Tanaka. "There are so many of them." Commander Reyes, ever the tactician, studied the revealed enemy formations. "They're using a pincer movement, trying to cut off Station 4 from the evacuation transports. If we can disrupt their command structure." He pointed toward the largest bioship, which hovered directly above the alien assault force like a malevolent moon. Sarah felt the crystal's energy surge in response to her growing determination. "New plan. Torres, maintain your scanning field. Reyes, you and Tanaka handle the ground forces. I'm going after that command ship." "Captain, that's suicide," Torres protested. "You can't take on an entire bioship alone." Sarah smiled, feeling the Radiance energy flow through her like liquid courage. "I won't be alone. We're connected. Remember, your strength is my strength, and my courage feeds back to all of you." She launched herself toward the massive alien vessel, her body trailing golden light like a comet. Behind her, she could feel her teammates engaging the Vorthak ground forces, their combined abilities creating spectacular displays of human determination made manifest. The bioship's surface was unlike anything in human technology. As Sarah approached, sections of the hull began to shift and open, revealing weapon systems that looked more grown than built. Energy beams lanced toward her, But the Radiance crystal allowed her to move in 3 dimensions with impossible grace, dodging attacks while steadily closing the distance. The Vorthak had never encountered an enemy who could fly through space unprotected, and their defensive systems struggled to track her erratic movements. Sarah found herself laughing with pure joy as she danced between energy beams, feeling more alive than she had since the invasion began. She struck the bioship's hull with both fists, channeling Radiance energy into a focused burst of power. The alien vessel's organic armor cracked and sparked, revealing the complex biotechnology within. But instead of simply trying to break through, Sarah found herself understanding something fundamental about Vorthak technology. The bioships weren't just vessels, they were living creatures, enslaved and modified by their builders. She could sense the pain and confusion of the creature that had been transformed into a weapon of war, its natural instincts suppressed by crystalline control systems, similar to the Radiance crystals but twisted toward domination rather than cooperation. "You don't have to fight," Sarah whispered, placing her hand on the exposed biotechnology. "You can choose something different." The Radiance energy flowed from her into the bioship's neural systems, carrying with it the emotions that powered her crystal: compassion, courage, and an unshakable belief in the possibility of redemption. For a moment, the massive vessel shuddered, its weapon systems falling silent. Meanwhile, on Europa's surface, the battle had taken an unexpected turn. Commander Reyes discovered that his enhanced speed and strength allowed him to match the Vorthak warriors in direct combat, his movements leaving trails of golden light that disrupted their stealth technology. Dr. Tanaka found that her healing abilities could not only mend human injuries but also repair damaged equipment, and even restore functionality to systems the aliens had drained of power. Lieutenant Torres had expanded her scanning field to cover the entire battle zone, but she was doing more than just revealing hidden enemies. Her light seemed to bolster the courage of human defenders throughout the mining complex, turning a desperate last stand into a coordinated counterattack. "This is incredible," Colonel Martinez reported from Station 4. "Our men are fighting like they're superhuman. Whatever you people are doing up there, keep it up." The truth was that the Radiance energy was affecting more than just the enhanced team. Every human in the area could feel the warm glow of hope and determination emanating from the crystal-powered warriors. And that emotional resonance was making them braver, stronger, and more effective in combat. But the Vorthak were adapting. Sarah could sense their command ship's biological brain struggling against her attempt to free it from its crystalline controls. The alien commanders were pouring more resources into maintaining their mental domination, and she realized she couldn't liberate the creature alone. "Reyes, I need you up here," she called through their shared connection. "Kind of busy down here, Captain," he replied, even as he caught a Vorthak warrior mid-leap and hurled it into one of their power-draining crystalline structures. "Trust me on this. Torres and Tanaka can handle the ground assault. I've found the key to winning this whole battle." Within seconds, Commander Reyes had launched himself from Europa's surface, his enhanced abilities carrying him through space toward the command bioship. As he approached, Sarah grabbed his hand, and their combined Radiance energy created a brilliant flare of golden light. Together, they poured their combined power into the bioship's neural systems, their crystals working in harmony to override decades of Vorthak conditioning. The message they sent was simple but profound: the concept of choice, of freedom, of beings working together by mutual consent rather than through domination. The effect was instantaneous and dramatic. The bioship's hull began to shift from the dark, predatory patterns of Vorthak technology to something more organic and natural. Its weapon systems retracted, and the smaller attack craft that had been operating under its control suddenly broke off their assault runs, as if awakening from a long nightmare. On Europa's surface, the Vorthak assault forces found themselves cut off from their command structure. Without central coordination, their advanced tactics began to fall apart. Human defenders, still energized by the Radiance team's presence, pressed their advantage with renewed vigor. But the most remarkable change was in the Vorthak warriors themselves. Freed from the bioship's controlling influence, many of them simply stopped fighting. Some began to retreat, while others stood motionless, as if trying to remember who they had been. before becoming soldiers in someone else's war. Dr. Tanaka, still on the surface, approached one of the stationary Vorthak warriors cautiously. Through her crystal's enhanced empathy, she could sense confusion and fear beneath its intimidating exterior. Acting on instinct, she extended her healing energy toward the alien being. The result was extraordinary. The Vorthak's biotechnology began to change, dark armor plating giving way to more natural skin tones, weapons retracting into what appeared to be normal limbs. When it looked at Dr. Tanaka, its eyes held intelligence and gratitude rather than predatory hunger. "They're not our enemies," she reported with wonder in her voice. "They're victims. The real Vorthak, whoever they are. They've been enslaving and modifying other species, turning them into weapons." High above Europa, Sarah and Commander Reyes maintained their connection with the liberated bioship. Through its senses, they could perceive something that chilled them to the bone. A massive fleet approaching from the outer solar system. Each ship larger and more heavily armed than anything they had yet encountered. The true Vorthak were coming, and they were not pleased that their enslaved forces had been freed. "We've won this battle," Sarah realized. "But we may have just started a much larger war." The liberated bioship pulsed with what felt like agreement, and through their connection, Sarah began to understand the scope of the Vorthak Empire. Hundreds of species across dozens of star systems, all enslaved and modified to serve as soldiers, workers, and living weapons in a conquest machine that had been operating for millennia. But now, for the first time, some of those enslaved beings had been freed. The Radiance energy, powered by human courage and compassion, had proven capable of breaking chains that had held entire civilizations in bondage. As the immediate battle wound down and human forces began securing the mining stations, Sarah gathered her team aboard the liberated bioship. The vessel's new consciousness welcomed them with feelings of deep gratitude and determination to help in whatever way possible. "We need to get back to Earth," she told her teammates. "Command needs to know what we've learned. This isn't just about defending our home anymore. We've stumbled into something much bigger." Lieutenant Torres was studying readings from her scanning field, which had revealed the approaching Vorthak fleet in the outer solar system. "Captain, there are at least 50 ships in that fleet. Some of them are the size of small moons." Commander Reyes checked his weapons and equipment, already thinking tactically about the challenges ahead. "If we can free their enslaved soldiers, we might be able to turn their own forces against them." Dr. Tanaka was tending to several freed Vorthak soldiers who had chosen to remain with the human forces rather than flee. Through her healing efforts, she was learning about their original species, beings who had once been peaceful explorers before being captured and transformed into weapons of war. "We're going to need more than just our team," Sarah realized. "We're going to need an army of people with Radiance crystals. And we're going to need to find a way to mass-produce the crystals without losing their connection to human courage and determination." The liberated bioship pulsed with agreement and began transmitting data about Vorthak crystal technology. It had retained enough of its original memories to know where the aliens had first discovered the Radiance crystals and how they had perverted their natural properties for military use. As they prepared for the journey back to Earth, Sarah looked out at Europa's ice fields, now peaceful under Jupiter's distant light. Human and freed alien forces were working together to repair the mining stations, their cooperation a small preview of what might be possible across the galaxy. But in the darkness beyond Jupiter's orbit, the true Vorthak fleet continued its approach. Sarah could sense their cold fury through the Radiance crystal, their determination to reclaim their escaped property and eliminate the humans who had dared to interfere with their empire. The real war was about to begin, and humanity would need every ounce of courage it could muster to face an enemy that had conquered civilizations across the stars. But for the first time since the invasion began, Sarah felt truly hopeful. They had proven that the human spirit, enhanced by alien technology but guided by human values, could break chains that had seemed unbreakable. The Skyborne champions of Radiance were returning home, carrying with them the knowledge and allies they would need for the greatest battle in human history. Earth hung before them like a wounded jewel as Sarah's team returned from Europa, their liberated bioship companion following in their transport's wake. The planet's scars from the Vorthak invasion were more visible now. Entire continents showed the dark patches where alien forces had established their power-draining installations, slowly killing everything around them. But there was something different about Earth's defensive installations. New energy signatures pulsed from orbital stations and ground-based facilities, and Sarah realized that in their absence, humanity had not been idle. The Radiance crystal technology had been reverse-engineered and distributed to volunteers across the solar system. Prometheus Control. This is Captain Chen requesting immediate debriefing with Admiral Jackson, she transmitted as they approached the orbital station. Captain Chen. Thank God you're alive, came the reply from Lieutenant Commander Walsh. Admiral Jackson is waiting for you in Conference Room Alpha. And Captain, you're going to want to see what we've accomplished while you were away. The docking bay of Prometheus Station buzzed with activity unlike anything Sarah had seen before. Technicians worked alongside beings that were clearly non-human but moved with the same sense of purpose as their human colleagues. She recognized several as freed Vorthak soldiers, their original forms restored through Radiance crystal healing, but others appeared to be from species she had never encountered. Dr. Tanaka was the first to notice the changes in the station's personnel. Sarah, look at their eyes, she whispered, pointing to a group of human technicians. They all have that golden glow we've seen in crystal-enhanced individuals. The truth became clear as they made their way through the station's corridors. Humanity had not just reverse-engineered the Radiance crystals. They had found a way to safely integrate the technology into ordinary people, creating an entire population of enhanced humans who could work together with unprecedented coordination and efficiency. Admiral Jackson met them at the entrance to Conference Room Alpha, and Sarah was startled by the change in his appearance. The exhaustion and desperation that had marked his features 3 weeks ago had been replaced by an aura of calm confidence. His eyes held the same golden glow as the other enhanced humans. But more than that, he seemed to radiate the kind of deep inner peace that came from absolute certainty of purpose. Captain Chen, Commander Reyes, Lieutenant Torres, Dr. Tanaka, he greeted them warmly. Welcome home. I trust you've brought us good news about the possibility of liberating Vorthak enslaved forces? Better than that, sir, Sarah replied. We've brought proof that it works, and allies who can help us understand their technology. But we've also confirmed that a massive Vorthak fleet is approaching. At least 50 ships, some of them the size of small moons. Admiral Jackson nodded calmly. We know. Our enhanced monitoring stations detected them 2 days ago, which is why we've accelerated our preparations for Operation Radiant Dawn. He led them into the conference room, where a 3-dimensional tactical display showed the entire solar system. Human installations glowed with warm golden light. While approaching Vorthak, forces appeared as cold blue markers, moving inexorably toward Earth. But there was something else in the display. Thousands of smaller golden points scattered throughout the asteroid belt and outer planets. In the 3 weeks since you left, we've produced over 10,000 Radiance crystals, Admiral Jackson explained. More importantly, we've discovered that the crystals can be networked together, allowing enhanced individuals to share not just emotions and thoughts, but actual combat abilities across vast distances. Dr. Elena Vasquez appeared on the display as a hologram, transmitting from a research facility on Mars. Captain Chen, your mission to Europa provided us with crucial data. The liberated bioship's memories contain detailed information about crystal matrix engineering. We've been able to create resonance networks that link every enhanced human in the solar system. Sarah felt her own crystal responding to something, a subtle vibration that she hadn't noticed before. You mean we're all connected now? Every person with a Radiance crystal? More than connected, Doctor, Vasquez replied with excitement. When the Vorthak main fleet arrives, every enhanced human in the solar system will be able to draw upon the courage and determination of every other enhanced human. We estimate that gives us an effective force multiplier of several thousand%. Commander Reyes studied the tactical display with professional interest. What about conventional forces? Are we abandoning traditional military assets? Quite the opposite, Admiral Jackson replied. The Radiance crystal enhancement works on equipment as well as people. Our ships can now operate at efficiency levels that would have been impossible before. Our weapons hit harder. Our shields hold longer. And our pilots can react faster than any human in history. Lieutenant Torres was examining readings from her own crystal, which seemed to be interfacing with the station's systems in ways she didn't fully understand. "Admiral, I'm detecting some kind of pattern in the network. It's like the crystals are trying to tell us something." The room fell silent as everyone focused on the subtle vibrations coming from their Radiance crystals. Through the shared consciousness that now linked all enhanced humans, a message was emerging. Not in words, but in pure emotion and intention. The crystals were not originally Vorthak technology. They were the creation of an ancient species that had been the first victims of Vorthak conquest. A race of beings who had managed to encode their knowledge and values into crystalline matrices before being enslaved. The Radiance energy was not just power. It was the preserved essence of a civilization that had valued courage, compassion, and cooperation above all else. "They're trying to warn us about something, Doctor," Tanaka realized, her healing abilities making her particularly sensitive to the crystal's messages. "The approaching fleet isn't just coming to reclaim their escaped property. They're coming to destroy the crystals entirely. They know that if the knowledge spreads, their entire empire will collapse." The tactical display updated as new sensor data arrived from the outer system monitoring stations. The Vorthak fleet had accelerated, burning through space with desperate urgency toward Earth's position. But more concerning was the massive energy signature building up in the center of their formation, a weapon system unlike anything humanity had encountered before. "It's a crystal destroyer," whispered one of the freed Vorthak allies through the conference room's communication system. "I remember it from before my enslavement. They used it to sterilize entire star systems when species learned to resist their control." Admiral Jackson's expression remained calm despite the magnitude of the threat they faced. "Then we'll have to make sure they never get the chance to use it." "Dr. Vasquez, how soon can we deploy the full Radiance network?" "The network is already active, Admiral. Every enhanced human in the solar system is now linked. But we've never tested it under combat conditions. Especially not against a force of this magnitude." Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. As the first human to successfully integrate with a Radiance crystal, she had become a focal point for the network's collective consciousness. Through their shared connection, she could sense the thoughts and emotions of thousands of enhanced humans across the solar system. Miners on Ceres, researchers on Titan, pilots aboard distant patrol ships, all of them linked by their common determination to protect their home and liberate the enslaved. "There's something else," she said slowly, working through an idea that was forming in her collective consciousness. "What if we don't just defend against the Vorthak fleet? What if we try to liberate them too?" The suggestion sent a ripple of shock through the Radiance network. The approaching fleet represented millions of enslaved beings, from dozens of species, all of them transformed into weapons against their will. If the liberation technique that had worked on Europa could be scaled up, the risk is enormous, Commander Reyes pointed out. "If we fail, we expose our entire network to Vorthak countermeasures. They'll have learned from what happened at Europa." Quote, "But if we succeed," Dr. Tanaka added, "we could end their empire in a single battle. Every species they've enslaved could be freed simultaneously." Admiral Jackson studied the tactical display, watching the cold blue markers of the Vorthak fleet draw closer to Earth's golden glow. "Captain Chen, you and your team have more experience with liberation techniques than anyone else. What do you think our chances are?" Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the Radiance crystal's energy flow through her consciousness and out into the network that now connected thousands of enhanced humans. Through their shared thoughts and emotions, she could sense a unanimous determination that went beyond mere military victory. Humanity had discovered something that the Vorthak had tried to destroy: the knowledge that cooperation was stronger than domination, that courage shared was courage multiplied, and that even the most advanced empire could not stand against beings who fought not for conquest but for liberation. "I think we can do it," she said quietly. "But it's going to require every enhanced human in the system working together in perfect harmony. One moment of doubt, One person who holds back out of fear, and the entire network could collapse. Then we'd better make sure everyone understands what's at stake, Admiral Jackson replied. Not just for humanity, but for every enslaved species in the Vorthak Empire. Dr. Vasquez, begin preparing the liberation protocols for network-wide deployment. Over the next 18 hours, as the Vorthak fleet closed the final distance to Earth, the Radiance network hummed with preparation and determination. Enhanced humans across the solar system practiced the liberation techniques, learning to extend their consciousness beyond their own bodies and into the crystalline control systems that enslaved other species. The freed Vorthak allies provided crucial intelligence about fleet compositions and control hierarchies, while the liberated bioship that had accompanied Sarah's team shared detailed technical specifications about the enemy's weapons and defenses. But most importantly, they provided something that no amount of technical data could replace: hope that liberation was possible, even for those who had been enslaved for generations. When the Vorthak fleet finally entered Earth's defensive perimeter, they found themselves facing something unprecedented in their millennia of conquest. Instead of scattered resistance from a primitive species, they encountered a coordinated network of thousands of enhanced beings whose collective courage and determination created a golden barrier of light that stretched across the entire inner solar system. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. Instead of trying to destroy the approaching fleet, the enhanced humans reached out with their consciousness, touching the minds of enslaved beings aboard every Vorthak vessel. The liberation energy flowed through the Radiance network, like a river of liquid hope, carrying with it the message that had been encoded in the crystals by an ancient species. The knowledge that freedom was possible, that cooperation was strength, and that courage shared could overcome any form of domination. One by one, the Vorthak vessels began to change. Enslaved crews awakened to their true nature. Biological control systems failed, and the cold blue markers on humanity's tactical displays began to shift to warm gold as liberated beings chose to join the Radiance network rather than continue fighting for their former masters. But the true Vorthak, the original species at the heart of the Empire, had one final card to play. As their fleet collapsed around them, they activated the Crystal Destroyer weapon, a massive energy beam designed to sterilize entire star systems of Radiance crystal technology. Sarah felt the weapon's activation through the network like a knife of ice cutting through her consciousness. The destructive energy was aimed directly at Earth, powerful enough to not just destroy every crystal on the planet but to render the entire system uninhabitable for any species that might develop similar technology in the future. In that moment, with seconds remaining before the weapon reached Earth, Sarah made a choice that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Instead of trying to shield Earth from the Crystal Destroyer, she reached out through the Radiance network and embraced the weapon's energy, channeling it through the collective consciousness of thousands of enhanced beings and transforming destruction into liberation on a galactic scale. The Crystal Destroyer's beam, meant to sterilize planets of hope and freedom, instead became a carrier wave for the liberation frequency. Every enslaved species within range suddenly found themselves free to choose their own destiny, while every crystal in the Vorthak Empire simultaneously transmitted the same message of courage and cooperation that had started with a small team of human volunteers. When the light faded, the Vorthak Empire had ceased to exist, not because it had been destroyed in battle, but because every being within it had been given the choice to be free. And freedom, it turned out, was far more attractive than slavery. Sarah found herself floating in space near Earth, her body glowing with Radiance energy, but somehow fundamentally changed by channeling such enormous power. Around her, thousands of liberated starships hung in space like a fleet of new allies, their crews representing dozens of species that had been enslaved for generations, but were now free to pursue their own destinies. Through the Radiance network, she could feel the gratitude and wonder of billions of newly liberated beings across the galaxy. Some chose to return to their homeworlds and rebuild their civilizations. Others decided to stay and help humanity develop technologies that would ensure such enslavement could never happen again. And a few, touched by the courage and compassion that had made their freedom possible, asked to join the Radiance network as permanent allies in the ongoing work of protecting freedom throughout the galaxy. Dr. Tanaka's voice reached her through the network, warm with amazement and joy. Sarah, do you realize what you've done? You've freed not just our solar system, but hundreds of star systems across the galaxy. We did it, Sarah corrected gently, looking back at Earth where thousands of golden lights marked the enhanced humans who had made the liberation possible. We all did it together. Admiral Jackson's communication came through the network with a mixture of pride and wonder. Captain Chen, I think it's time we started planning for a much larger mission. With our new allies and the liberated technologies they're sharing, we have the capability to spread the Radiance network to every corner of the galaxy. No species should ever have to suffer enslavement again. As Sarah floated in the space between worlds, surrounded by the ships of 100 liberated species and connected through Radiance energy to thousands of enhanced humans, she realized that humanity had found its true purpose among the stars, not as conquerors or even explorers, but as liberators. Beings whose greatest strength lay not in their technology or weapons, but in their unshakable belief that every intelligent being deserved the chance to be free. The Skyborne champions of Radiance had won more than a battle or even a war. They had proven that courage shared was indeed stronger than any force of domination, and that the light of freedom, once kindled, could spread across the galaxy like dawn breaking over countless worlds. Earth hung before them now, not as a wounded planet struggling to survive, but as the birthplace of a new kind of civilization. One that would be remembered not for what it conquered, but for what it chose to set free. And in the golden glow of the Radiance network that now stretched across the stars, Sarah could see the beginning of an age when every being in the galaxy would have the chance to reach for the sky with wings of pure light, carrying within themselves the unshakable knowledge that freedom, once awakened, could never again be chained.